And again, amid the current push for industrial modernization, the gas sector finds itself grappling with pressing concerns regarding climate targets. Earlier this year, a revamped gas amendment bill was published for public commentary in January. This bill seeks to overhaul the outdated Gas Act of 2001, presenting a comprehensive array of amendments aimed at modernizing and streamlining the nation's gas industry. To explore the potential implications of the proposed changes in depth, I'm joined by legal expert James Ross from the law firm CDH. James, good afternoon. Welcome to today, and thank you very much for your time. Can we start first with just an overriding question about the intention of this bill? What does it seek to do?
Thank you, Dan. Good to be here. I think if we are going to put the amendments and the developments into context, we just need to get some background information on the Gas Act itself. As you usefully pointed out, this was an act that was published in 2001. It came into effect in 2005, which is almost 20 years ago now. So the function of this act, which is to regulate the gas industry nationally, is almost 20 years. There have been 20 years of developments in this industry since it came into force. So that being said, of course, the industry hasn't remained static in that time. There have been changes in international best practice. There have been technological advancements which change how gas is procured and transported, as well as developments in the gases which are in the mix today themselves. You see a good example of that is the rise of green hydrogen.
Okay, so what does it seek to do after so long? Now there's a new amendment bill. As you point out, things have changed since then.
Yes, exactly. So if we're talking about the specific amendments themselves, the bill is looking to modernize the act by aligning its provisions with current policy, by expanding the scope of the act to accommodate these new technological advancements and gases such as shale gas or methane bed gas. Also, what you see currently in the Gas Act is that it only really provides for transportation via pipeline. That is no longer the case. And it also incentivizes development. One of the interesting things that the bill introduces is the concept of an integrated energy project, which the minister can identify through determinations and use to fast-track the industry. Outside of these general strategic objectives of the bill, there are a number of expanded compliance and revised licensing provisions in the bill, which will change practically how the industry functions.
Yeah, does it clash with what the country is trying to do in its energy transition? I see some environmental bodies are not happy.
Not from my perspective. I think what's quite useful is if we refer back to the 2023 Integrated Resources Plan, which coincidentally was only published about 2 weeks before the gas amendment bill, beginning of January this year, commonly referred to as the IRP. Basically what the IRP does is it provides a forecast of our anticipated energy mix and procurements from now until 2050. There's a short-term plan from now till 2030, which breaks down the numbers of the anticipated energy procurements. And if we're looking at gas, the 2023 IRP envisages a big role for gas to power. We're looking at something like 4,200 megawatts of additional gas energy to be procured from now till 2030. This is compared to about 1,000 megawatts that's currently in place. And it is very significant if we put that into the context of the national energy deficit, which is sitting at about 6,000 megawatts. So that would go a long way to helping solve the country's energy woes.
What about impact on climate? I mean, do you have thoughts about on climate change? Because there will be concern about so much natural gas as the country is looking for a new energy mix. And then you've got this gas amendment bill that seeks to expand the sector and modernize it?
Right. So I guess those concerns come in really when we're talking about the Paris Agreement and our commitment to reach net zero by 2050. So as you may know, our approach to decarbonisation, at least as stated by government, strategic policy, is that it needs to be a just transition. Basically, what that means is greening the economy in a way that doesn't unnecessarily risk jobs on a wide scale, and so that we can take a measured approach, basically. Now, gas is useful in this context as an energy source because it has been identified as a transition fuel. It's somewhere in between. Basically, what that means is somewhere in between renewable energy and your traditional fossil fuel based energy sources, and that can help ease the transition towards renewable energy. It provides a stable energy source, and if your viewers want to look into that in further detail, there are some useful reports out there. There was a 2022 report by the National Business Initiative in collaboration with Business Unity SA, which speaks about gas as a transition fuel source.
Yeah, so the implications that the bill has for oil and gas companies, I mean, it looks like from what you've just said and what you said earlier is positive. I mean, there's going to be lots of business for them as we transition from a largely predominantly fossil fuel-based energy supply to a renewable one.
I do think it's a step in the right direction. Obviously, from an economical standpoint, it's very positive. We've got gas-to-power developments happening in the Eastern Cape, in KZN. There's talk about LNG developments in Mpumalanga. There's, of course, the green hydrogen strategy around the Northern Cape. This is all very good from an employment standpoint and a development standpoint. And then, yes, I mean, the transition fuel point stands. I mean, this is a way that we can get to net zero while still alleviating the stress that the economy is feeling from things like the energy deficit that we're feeling right now. Now, how that's going to impact individual companies, that'll vary from company to company. What they will need to do practically is adapt to the new regulatory regime. There's, like I said, there's the revised licensing mechanisms and so on, but practically they need to assess it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, okay. Finally, James, and if you may very briefly, I mean, any thoughts about what could be the legal imperative to balance the need for this industry, the gas production industry, and our environmental commitments that we've made? You've mentioned Paris, for example, earlier, the Paris Agreement.
Well, if the RRP is anything to go by, then gas is here to stay. It's not just from here till 2030. It's the longer-term view that's elaborated on in the RRP. Up to 2050 does envisage a role for gas. And so, if we're going to talk about balancing our environmental commitments, it'll just need to be done. The projects that get fast-tracked. The management of those projects will need to be done in a sustainable way that dovetails with our environmental commitments.
Thank you very much. James Ross from CDH, just giving us his views on this new gas amendment bill that was out for public comment until January. In other news now, vulnerable groups